Canadians have been given the right to use their traditional names on official documents as part of a government effort to atone for decades of forced assimilation. We spoke with Indigenous human rights activist Lorelei Williams. She told us it in no way, though, makes up for the atrocities the government committed.
I've been trying to get my own Indigenous name, but yeah, it hasn't happened yet. I was supposed to get it when my mom passed away, but you know, in that moment, it was just too hard for me. I had to leave my mom's reserve. When the kids were taken to residential schools, they actually were numbered. They had to go by numbers. Just one small step that the government is taking. The government owes us so much. You know, it was the government who made the decision to take the kids, to take our languages, to take our cultures, to take our names, to try to kill us. It's Canada's genocide against our people. With the discovery of the 215 children plus, they can't hide the truth anymore. So I guess they're trying to make up for what they did, but this is a small step. You know, a lot of our languages are actually dying.
On Monday, the Canadian government announced that Indigenous names can be used in their original spelling for identity and immigration documents. That's 6 years after a report by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission condemned cultural genocide at schools and called for greater inclusion and recognition of the dignity of Indigenous people. Well, the move comes after the grim discovery of hundreds of unmarked graves at the site of a former residential school. It shed more light on Canada's colonial past. So schools were part of a countrywide network aimed at assimilating Indigenous children by forcibly removing them from communities and forbidding them from performing cultural practices. Physical and emotional abuse were prominent at Canadian residential schools.
Every day you were in constant fear that your hope was that it wasn't you today that was going to be the target, the victim. You know, you weren't going to have to suffer any form of humiliation.
You learn not to cry anymore. You just get harder. And yeah, you learn to shut down.
I couldn't talk a word of English. I talked Cree, and I was abused for that, hit, and made to try to talk English.
I lost my language. They threatened us with a strapping if we spoke it, and within a year, I lost all of it.
I used to hear my ill brother crying at night. I asked the principal to take him to the hospital. He didn't. After about 2 weeks, my brother was in so much pain he was going out of his mind. I pleaded with the principal for days to take him to a doctor.
They started to sexually take advantage of me and abuse me. Not one, not two, but many people for a very long time, until I was 16. I held everything in and didn't tell anybody for 20 years.
Well, Lorelei Williams again says little's changed, with Indigenous people still exposed to systemic racism even today.
This one school has definitely caught a lot of attention around the world. There's so many Indigenous leaders that have spoken up about this. I find when we speak up about this, we have to repeat ourselves over and over and over again. And it gets tiring. It's hard. We're grateful that these children are being found. We always knew that they were there. And it's not just those children. So this is one of Canada's deepest, darkest secrets. There's so much systemic racism against us still to this day. And this is exactly why our women and girls, our Indigenous women and girls, Two-Spirit, are going missing and being murdered at a high rate. You know, as an Indigenous woman, we're still at the bottom here in Canada, and these are our own lands. So the systemic racism has to stop.